Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. Zooming in on the topic of narcissistic control tactics, specifically that of the overt narcissist. The overt narcissist is one of the more outwardly flamboyant, charming, intoxicating, alluring, seductive of the narcissist types. Psychologists have deemed essentially, within the personality disorder, the cluster B, two types of the narcissist personality. The overt narcissist, which is really the person who has a real outward show. Think of it almost like the peacock, very flamboyant, always wanting to be the center of attention, the showstopper, the big party goer, the one who's always trying to flash their wealth, always trying to impress you with their accomplishments. They're constantly trying to put on a parade of their conquests, whether sexual conquests, whether work conquests, familial conquests, and they oftentimes trying to hit you with a little bit of a sob story, that they were divorced, or perhaps it wasn't their fault, and so you come in and then they're extremely charming. They sweep you off your feet, make you feel like you're walking on cloud 59. Your prayers have just been answered. They woo you, wine you, dine you. Everything is amazing sexual experiences, amazing romantics. You're like, wow, did this just drop out of a Harlequin romance or what? And these people tend to be very charming, physically attractive, highly intelligent, but extremely smooth and adept at taking advantage of, controlling, and manipulating others. And with this also comes the ability to lie pathologically on a daily basis, where they can just, lie and, really pull one over on people to really degrees that would boggle the mind and the imagination. Really, all the different things that they will do, the complexities, the work that they do to secure and manipulate people. I want to go into a little bit more of the manipulation tactics, particularly, that of, the initial love bombing and then the discard, where essentially then, once they secure you, once they're able to break you down, once they're able to get what they had wanted or derived from you, then, becomes the discard. But I want you to understand that oftentimes, the discard is where the narcissist is working in a very sort of cold, calculated methodology, where they're trying to keep you, as I mentioned, subservient. The narcissist strictly wants to be in a superior position. They feel themselves superior to others in their environment and in the world in general. They just have this very sort of I am better than everybody attitude. And to the point that it's actually a personality disorder. It's actually it becomes a real, psychological detriment. And in fact, the brain scans of the narcissists have shown that they have very thin gray matter in the areas of the cortex relating to expressions of empathy and emotional content. The left anterior insula has been shown to be very weak and very, thin, which means it's a very underdeveloped part of their brain, which is actually the part of the brain that relates to empathy and being connected to people and having, for more or less, a heart, for more or less humanity. So when we talk about the manipulation tactics, essentially the overt narcissist is going to break people down by a lot of this love bombing, where it's the charming, it's the sweeping off their feet. And then, unbeknownst to them, little by little, they're being basically corroded away through boundary violation, through shaming. A lot of the shaming comes through in terms of physical neglect or physical body language, but most oftenly in the form of communication. So it can be extremely perfectionistic standards that this narcissist operates on and then holds their supply to. So then, you start receiving a lot of the narcissistic criticism that comes from these people who just seem to pursue these perfectionist ideals that A, nobody can live up to, B, the narcissist exhibits a constant dissatisfaction with basically everything and everyone around them. Nothing is ever good enough. They are constantly working for better, to get more. It's just things aren't clean enough, things aren't big enough, things aren't fast enough, things aren't slow enough, the food isn't enough, the plumbing is this. I mean, it's, there's a lot of criticism, and so they keep a lot of these plates spinning in the air, and they keep a lot of their supplies working hard, even despite the criticism. So if you have felt yourself to be really subjected to a very sort of harsh level of expectation that is, promulgated by this individual who is the overt narcissist, and essentially you are feeling that there's a lot of control of you going on through these unrealistic expectations, and they're really giving you a sort of very discomfortable, discomfort feeling, feeling very uneasy. And, it's when the excitement, then turns and it transforms, it transmutes basically into a sort of uncomfortability with these types of people. And so it's oftentimes very confusing for victims of this type of narcissistic abuse, because what once was so satisfying and thrilling now is becoming very uncomfortable and confusing to them. And it's almost, they're being controlled through this sort of unrealistic expectation and this sort of fear. And then that fear starts to really work into that person and cause them to do a lot of things that they really hitherto would not have done. And a lot of it can be very hurtful to that person, where they violate their own standards, they get into a lot of conflicts, a lot of fighting, things of this nature, which becomes a whole big problem and imbalance. So if that is the experience that you're in, realize that this is a tactic, a tool of the narcissist, this sort of, insulting manner and judgment, which they constantly and chronically hold people to, which, as we've stated in some of the earlier videos, your internal, your judgment and your self-acceptance should come from within. It should be what's called a locus of control, which is internal versus external. So that's the whole cycle, the complex cycle that the narcissist will create, is they brainwash you into believing that they are the ones who are setting the standards and expectations for you versus it being yourself. So you end up, the victim ends up being brainwashed into feeling that they have to essentially live according to what they are stating, and their identity then becomes serving them. And that is the supply cycle. And I can go more into this, but I know that this is a lot. So we will expound on this in future videos. If this is a question you have, just comment with a little bit more specifics, and if this makes sense, let me know if this makes sense. I know it's a lot and I know it's complicated, but I do hope to help you see it a little bit more clearly so you can understand the dynamics, so you can extract yourself from it and land back on your feet. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos help. Please share, please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussions, and support.